Being liked can quietly destroy your success. Not because kindness is weakness, not because being disliked makes a man powerful, but because many men are not trying to be liked. They are trying to be approved of. And approval has a price. You agree before you have considered the terms. You explain decisions that require no permission. You lower your price before anyone objects. You remain available to people who would never rearrange their lives for you. You hide your ambition because your growth makes the room uncomfortable. Then one day you discover the truth. People enjoy your presence. They appreciate your compliance. They praise your character. But they do not respect your time. They do not protect your interests. They do not promote your work. They do not pay what your contribution is worth. You are liked, but you are not valued. Machiavelli understood why this happens. He did not argue that every man should become cruel, hostile, or feared. His insight was colder and more precise. Any position built entirely on another person's affection remains controlled by that person's will. And in this guide, you are going to see the hidden mechanism that turns approval into obedience. You will see why being easy to like can make you easy to use. Why visible proof often matters more than private goodness. Why standards create more durable respect than endless accommodation. And why the men who change institutions, markets, and their own lives are often forced to make decisions that approval seekers cannot make. Because if your need to be liked controls your decisions, your future belongs to other people. Your employer controls what you dare to ask for. Your family controls what you dare to attempt. Your friends control how much ambition you are permitted to display. Your clients control your price. Your audience controls your voice. And every time you surrender a necessary decision to preserve a pleasant reaction, you exchange future position for present approval. That exchange feels harmless, until years have passed, until your standards have disappeared, until people know they can receive your time, labor, attention, and loyalty without offering commitment, respect, or consequence. The man who needs approval does not command his own life. He merely negotiates with everyone who might withdraw affection. Most men carry a belief they have never examined. If people like me, they will eventually value me. It sounds reasonable because affection feels like evidence. A manager calls you reliable. A friend tells you that you are a good man. A client compliments your work. A relative says you have potential. These words create emotional warmth, but warmth is not structure. Reality asks harder questions. Do they pay you according to the value you create? Do they choose you when an opportunity appears? Do they respect your time when it becomes inconvenient? Do they protect your contribution when you are not in the room? Do they accept your boundaries without punishing you? Do they lose something meaningful when you leave? Those questions expose the difference between being liked, being valued, and being used. A liked man may be pleasant, dependable, safe, predictable, and easy to reach. People enjoy having him around because he creates little friction. He listens, he accommodates, he carries more than his share. He solves problems before anyone asks. He rarely forces another person to confront the cost of accessing him. A valued man creates consequence. His time has weight. His skill changes outcomes. His absence creates difficulty. His standards influence the terms. His reputation reaches the room before he does. Removing him produces a measurable loss. A used man provides value without requiring respect, reciprocity, or consequence. People praise his generosity because generosity keeps flowing in one direction. They call him loyal because his loyalty saves them from changing. They describe him as dependable because they have learned that urgency, guilt, or disappointment can make him surrender his schedule. Approval is emotional. Value is structural. Approval describes how another person feels about you. Value describes what changes because you are present. This is why a man can be liked by everyone and remain underpaid, overlooked, replaceable, and politically weak. People can enjoy you without investing in you. They can praise you without promoting you. They can call you loyal while using that loyalty to avoid compensating you. They can admire your character while arranging the relationship, so your character benefits them more than it benefits you. The first shift is simple, but it is not comfortable. Stop asking, "Do they like me?" Ask, "What structure does this relationship create? Do they respect the terms? Do they recognize the contribution? Does reciprocity exist? Does my presence carry consequence?" You are not trying to become unpleasant. You are learning to stop confusing affection with position. But understanding the difference does not make you free. Many men know they are being used and still say yes. They feel the resentment. They recognize the pattern. They promise themselves that next time will be different. Then a request arrives. Another person sounds disappointed, and the old response returns. That happens because people-pleasing is not simply excessive kindness. It is a learned command system. A request reaches you. Before you evaluate whether it is fair, useful, or aligned with your future, your mind predicts the reaction. Will they think I am selfish? Will they stop inviting me? Will the client walk away? Will my manager think I lack commitment? Will my family say I have changed? The future consequence becomes secondary. The immediate reaction becomes primary. You say yes. For a moment, the tension disappears. The other person is pleased. Your nervous system receives relief. It interprets approval as safety. But the cost arrives later. Your work is interrupted. Your price is reduced. Your attention is divided. Your resentment grows. Your self-respect declines because you know the decision did not come from judgment. It came from fear. Then, instead of correcting the structure, you seek more approval to repair the discomfort. You become more useful, more agreeable, more available. The cycle begins again. Need approval, say yes. Lose standards. Feel used, seek reassurance. Say yes again. This is how another person's reaction becomes your command system. They do not need formal authority over you. Their disappointment is enough. Their silence is enough. Their criticism is enough. Their withdrawal is enough. Over time, people do not merely respond to your personality. They learn your terms. Every repeated act teaches them what access to you costs. If you reply instantly every time, instant access becomes normal. If you accept work before defining the scope, expansion becomes expected. If you apologize before stating a boundary, your boundary sounds negotiable. If you lower your price before anyone objects, they learn that discomfort can purchase a discount. If you allow people to take credit because you do not want conflict, silence becomes permission. None of these concessions appears catastrophic. That is why the pattern survives. Each concession buys a small amount of peace, but the peace is purchased by weakening the standard. Eventually, your generosity stops feeling like a choice. It becomes infrastructure. Your availability becomes expected. Your flexibility becomes mandatory. Your patience becomes an asset others believe they own. Then, the first time you introduce a limit, they accuse you of changing. They are correct. You have changed the terms under which they were benefiting. A boundary is not an attack. It is information. It tells people what access requires. A refusal is not cruelty. It is the protection of limited resources. A price is not an apology. It is a condition of exchange. Disagreement is not disrespect. It is proof that your judgment still belongs to you. The objective is not to make people fear you. The objective is to stop fearing their reaction. This becomes clearer when you look at what happened inside Apple. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was in severe difficulty. Its product strategy had become fragmented. Its market position had weakened. Its identity was unclear. Apple reported a net loss of roughly $1 billion for that fiscal year. The company had too many competing priorities and too little disciplined focus. Jobs did not solve this by trying to make every internal group feel included. He forced reduction. Apple's confusing range of computers was reorganized around 4 core categories: consumer and professional, desktop and portable. That decision sounds obvious after success. Before success, it feels like rejection. Projects lose funding. Teams lose status. Ideas are abandoned. People who benefited from complexity resist simplification. An approval-seeking leader cannot do this cleanly. He tries to preserve every project because every project has supporters. He delays the decision because delay avoids confrontation. He keeps weak commitments alive because ending them would create discomfort. Then the institution pays for his emotional weakness. In fiscal 1998, Apple reported net income of $309 million, compared with a loss of approximately $1 billion the previous year. The lesson is not that harshness creates success. The lesson is that value often requires exclusion. Apple could not become valuable again until it stopped treating every activity as equally worthy of survival. Neither can you. You cannot preserve every friendship, every expectation, every habit, every obligation, every identity, and still claim to be focused. Every serious direction excludes alternatives. Every real standard disappoints someone. Every price removes certain buyers. Every disciplined schedule rejects invitations that once received automatic agreement. The approval-seeking man wants focus without social cost. That does not exist. Machiavelli used the word virtue to describe something deeper than ordinary virtue. It referred to capacity, force of character, adaptability, and the ability to shape events rather than merely suffer them. Steve Jobs could not control the entire technology market. He could control what Apple would stop doing. That is the first territory of power. Not controlling the world. Controlling selection. Approval seeks addition. Power often begins with subtraction. The people pleaser asks, how can I keep everyone satisfied? The strategist asks, what must be removed for the essential thing to survive? That question applies to products, work, reputation, attention, relationships, and the parts of your identity that were built only to remain acceptable. If this is the problem you are living through, stop collecting ideas that make you feel temporarily clear. You already know that approval has been controlling your decisions. Your real problem is that you do not yet know what to build in its place. The leverage map shows you what to build with that clarity, the skill path, proof project, and execution plan that fit your current situation. Depths of Psyche helps you see reality clearly. The leverage map turns that clarity into a position. This is not for the man who wants another motivational escape. It is for the man who is ready to replace approval with evidence. The decision is yours. But cutting what is weak is only the first test. The second test is harder. After you choose a direction, can you tolerate being misunderstood long enough for the evidence to appear? In 1997, Amazon was still a young company facing larger competitors, investor expectations, losses, and constant pressure to prove itself through immediate financial performance. Public markets create a powerful approval system. Every quarter produces a reaction. Every reaction tempts leadership to optimize for the mood of the moment. Jeff Bezos refused that command system. In Amazon's 1997 shareholder letter, he stated that the company would prioritize long-term market leadership over short-term profitability and short-term Wall Street reactions. He did not say that judgment did not matter, capital mattered, customers mattered, competition mattered, cash flow mattered. But there is a difference between receiving feedback and surrendering strategy. Amazon's sales grew from $15.7 million in 1996 to $147.8 million in 1997. Customer accounts grew from 180,000 to 1.51 million. The company had not removed risk. It had created evidence that the position was strengthening. Jobs revealed the power of exclusion. Bezos revealed the power of surviving temporary misunderstanding. The approval-seeking man cannot tolerate that period. He needs every decision to be praised immediately. He announces before he has built. He changes direction when the audience becomes quiet. He abandons a valuable skill because early attempts receive little attention. He lowers his price because rejection feels like a verdict. He confuses reaction with evidence. Men who chase approval optimize for reaction. Men who build power optimize for position. Reaction asks, did they like what I did? Position asks, did this increase my capacity? Did this create an asset? Did this deepen a scarce skill? Did this improve my reputation among serious people? Did this make me harder to replace? Did this create evidence that compounds? One produces emotional relief, the other produces leverage. You cannot control whether everyone approves of your strategy. You can control whether your strategy produces evidence. You cannot control immediate recognition. You can control the quality and distribution of the work. You cannot control every market outcome. You can control whether you build skills, savings, reputation, and alternatives before pressure arrives. Stop asking whether your decisions create immediate comfort. Ask whether they strengthen your position. A position can survive disapproval. A reaction cannot. And this is where Machiavelli's most famous argument must be understood correctly. In The Prince, he writes, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, when, of the two, either must be dispensed with." This is not permission for an ordinary man to intimidate colleagues, friends, clients, or family. Machiavelli was discussing political rule under unstable conditions. He was asking how a ruler maintains obedience when he cannot guarantee both affection and fear. He also warned that a ruler must avoid becoming hated. The modern lesson is not to make people fear you. The modern lesson is to stop building your life on approval you cannot control. Love depends on another person's continued judgment. Today, they admire you. Tomorrow, their incentives change. Today, your family praises your ambition. Tomorrow, they fear the risk. Today, your manager values your loyalty. Tomorrow, budgets contract. Today, your audience celebrates your honesty. Tomorrow, the same honesty becomes inconvenient. If your movement depends on affection remaining stable, your movement remains unstable. That is the weakness Machiavelli exposed. Affection is not always false. Gratitude is not always meaningless. Loyalty is not always temporary. But none of them should become the foundation of your position. A company may praise your years of service and still remove you when the numbers demand it. A client may compliment your work and still resist paying its real price. A friend may support your ambition in conversation and resent it when your progress changes the hierarchy. A family may love you deeply and still pressure you to choose the future that makes them feel safe. The approval-seeking man mistakes affection for protection. He believes that if he remains useful, agreeable, loyal, and easy to understand, people will defend his interests. Then their interests change, and he discovers that praise was never a contract. The answer is not bitterness. The answer is construction. Build on skill, build on proof, build on standards, build on reputation, build on savings, build on alternatives, build on the ability to refuse, build on the ability to leave. These things do not make you invulnerable. They make you less dependent on emotions you cannot command. A man who cannot tolerate being misunderstood cannot hold a serious position for long. A man who cannot tolerate disappointment cannot negotiate. A man who cannot tolerate criticism cannot publish. A man who cannot tolerate rejection cannot sell. A man who cannot tolerate temporary loneliness cannot leave a weak hierarchy. A man who cannot tolerate another person's displeasure cannot defend a boundary. You do not need to become feared. You need to become less governable by approval. But standards alone are not enough. You may know your value. You may believe in your ability. You may work harder than the people around you. None of that guarantees the world will recognize it. Machiavelli writes, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." His context was political reputation, but the mechanism still matters. People make decisions from what they can see. The unsupported man often resents this. He says people do not understand his potential. He says they only judge the surface. He says they should recognize how serious he is. He says the work should speak for itself. But hidden potential creates no public obligation. A market cannot pay for a skill it cannot identify. An employer cannot promote evidence that has not been documented. An audience cannot share work that has not been published. A client cannot trust a result that has never been demonstrated. A serious ally cannot evaluate a promise with no history behind it. This may feel unfair. It is still real. Good intentions do not create status. Visible proof does. This does not mean appearance is everything. A false reputation eventually collides with reality. But invisible competence is often treated as non-existent competence. If you create value, but allow others to frame the contribution, you lose control of reputation. If you solve important problems but never document the result, your work becomes easy to forget. If you possess skill but refuse to distribute evidence, less capable people with clearer proof will be chosen before you. This is not vanity. It is legibility. A reputation is compressed information. It tells people what to expect before direct experience becomes possible. Stop describing yourself through intention. Do not say, "I am disciplined." Show what you completed consistently. Do not say, "I am valuable." Show the measurable problem you solved. Do not say, "I am ambitious." Show the asset you built when nobody was watching. Do not say, "I deserve an opportunity." Show the proof that reduces the risk of choosing you. Potential is private. Reputation is public. Power begins when evidence connects the two. Yet even proof can fail to protect you if your standards collapse under pressure. A man says he refuses disrespect, but he cannot leave the job. He has no savings, no alternative offer, no scarce skill, no documented proof, no relationships outside the organization. His statement may be sincere. His position remains weak. Another man says he will never lower his price. But he has no pipeline, no reputation, no case studies, no ability to find another client. His standard exists verbally. The market can wait him out. A third man says he no longer needs his family's approval, but he still depends on them financially. Every serious decision still passes through their risk tolerance. Again, the feeling may be sincere. The structure says otherwise. This is the difference between declaring independence and building it. A boundary becomes real when you possess the capacity to accept its cost. Without alternatives, refusal becomes expensive. Without competence, independence becomes fantasy. Without proof, standards may sound like entitlement. Without discipline, principles collapse when inconvenience arrives. Machiavellian realism does not tell you to abandon principle. It tells you to examine what gives principle force. Machiavelli writes, "The chief foundations of all states, new as well as old or composite, are good laws and good arms." His language is political and military. Your application must remain lawful and personal. Your equivalent of arms is capacity, skill, resources, credibility, discipline, options. The ability to enforce a boundary by leaving an arrangement that violates it. Strength does not make every decision ethical. It makes ethical choice possible under pressure. A man with no options may know what is right and still surrender. A man with skill, savings, proof, and alternatives can endure the temporary cost of refusing. This is why many men talk about standards but live by fear. Their words are ahead of their structure. They want respect without scarcity. They want boundaries without consequence. They want independence without preparation. They want freedom without building the ability to survive the price of freedom. The loud man is not necessarily strong. The angry man is not necessarily courageous. The ruthless man is not necessarily disciplined. Machiavelli understood that disorder weakens force. In The Art of War, he writes, "Without doubt, ferocious and disordered men are much weaker than timid and ordered ones." He also writes, "Order drives fear from men, and disorder lessens courage. The lesson is not combat. The lesson is structure." A man who cannot organize his time, money, attention, and conduct has little reason to celebrate his intensity. Order converts intention into capacity. Your calendar reveals whether you command your attention. Your bank balance reveals how much pressure you can absorb. Your portfolio reveals whether your confidence is supported by proof. Your network reveals whether your world contains alternatives. Your habits reveal whether your standards survive when motivation disappears. This is where approval must be replaced by an operating system. First, establish clear terms. Define what you are offering. Define what is expected. Define the timeline. Define the price. Define what falls outside the agreement. Ambiguity usually benefits the person with fewer boundaries. Clear terms do not eliminate conflict. They reveal whether cooperation is real. Second, protect your time. Your calendar is a map of command. If every request enters immediately, you do not possess a schedule. You possess public property. Do not make instant access your default. Urgency must be demonstrated, not merely announced. A person who respects your value will not require constant interruption as proof of loyalty. Third, make contribution measurable. Do not rely on the hope that people notice. Track the result. Document the improvement. Save the evidence. Name the problem you solved. Show what changed before and after your involvement. The world does not consistently reward hidden effort. It responds more reliably to visible, scarce, positioned contribution. Fourth, build alternatives. A boundary without options is fragile. A negotiation without alternatives is already weak. A career without outside relationships can become a cage. A business with one client can become obedience disguised as entrepreneurship. A life built on one source of approval can become emotional captivity. Alternatives do not guarantee victory. They reduce desperation. And desperation is one of the easiest conditions to exploit. Research supports part of this pattern. In a series of studies published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, researchers Timothy Judge, Beth Livingston, and Charles Hurst examined the relationship between agreeableness and income. Across 4 studies, the relationship between agreeableness and earnings was more negative for men than for women. This does not prove that kindness causes poverty. It does not mean cruelty creates competence. It does not mean every agreeable man earns less. The danger is not decency. The danger is uncalibrated compliance. Kindness is not automatic agreement. Cooperation is not submission. Patience is not unlimited access. Generosity is not the absence of terms. Peace is not fear of conflict. Respect is not approval. A decent man can negotiate. A cooperative man can refuse. A calm man can disagree. A generous man can protect his resources. A loyal man can require reciprocity. Every time you avoid a necessary negotiation, you may be purchasing harmony with your future position. Every time you remain silent when your contribution is minimized, you teach others that recognition is optional. Every time you accept expanded work without revised terms, you convert reliability into cheap access. Every time you lower your price before the other person has even objected, you are not being generous. You are pricing your fear. The issue is not whether you are nice. The issue is whether your desire to preserve harmony prevents accurate exchange. If you cannot name your contribution, someone else will price it. If you cannot define the scope, someone else will expand it. If you cannot say no, your yes carries little information. If you cannot risk rejection, your negotiation has already ended. Now examine your own life without comforting language. Choose one area: work, family, friends, business, clients, career, relationships. Ask one question: am I liked, valued, or used? If you are liked, people may enjoy your presence while resisting your boundaries. If you are valued, they respect your time, skill, standards, and contribution. If you are used, they receive access without reciprocity, respect, or consequence. Then identify the approval tax. What has being liked cost you? Time, energy, focus, money, confidence, reputation, opportunity, self-respect. Name the cost precisely. Do not say it has cost you peace. Say it has cost you 5 unpaid hours every week. Say it has cost you a lower price. Say it has cost you 1 year inside a job you should have left. Say it has cost you a project you delayed because your family did not understand it. Say it has cost you your voice because you kept editing your opinions to protect other people's comfort. Then install one boundary. Say no once. Stop over-explaining. Raise the price. Limit access. Define the scope. Protect one work block. Refuse unpaid labor. Ask for commitment. Stop replying instantly. A boundary does not need to be dramatic. It needs to be clear. Then replace approval with proof. Publish one piece of work. Send 5 serious messages. Build one case study. Finish one portfolio asset. Practice one income skill. Create one measurable result. Make one difficult but necessary decision. Do not trade future respect for present approval. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming accurate. You are not rejecting kindness. You are removing surrender from kindness. You are not declaring war on relationships. You are refusing relationships that depend on your weakness. Some people like you because you are easy to access. Some people like you because you never challenge them. Some people like you because your standards are negotiable. That is not respect. That is convenience. When you change, some approval will disappear. That loss will reveal information. The person who only valued your compliance will call your boundaries selfish. The client who only valued your discount will call your price unreasonable. The friend who only valued your smaller identity will call your ambition arrogance. Do not react too quickly. Observe. Their resistance may not mean your boundary is wrong. It may mean the old arrangement was profitable for them. This is the moment most men retreat. They mistake discomfort for error. They see another person's disappointment and immediately assume they have gone too far. But growth changes terms. New terms expose old dependencies. The goal is not to become impossible to love. The goal is to become difficult to use. If you are the man who keeps consuming hard truths but still returns to the same weak arrangements, stop confusing recognition with transformation. You already know that approval has shaped your behavior. Your real problem is that insight without repeated execution changes nothing. If you keep collecting ideas without building standards, proof, and alternatives, you will become more articulate about the prison while remaining inside it. Inside Patreon, you get the deeper, unfiltered breakdowns on power, reputation, leverage, discipline, and human behavior, so you can turn these ideas into a stronger operating system. This is not for the man looking for comfort or endless motivation. It is for the man willing to examine his weakness without excuses and build the capacity to replace it. The decision is yours. Stop confusing being liked with being valued. Do not ask who enjoys your presence. Ask who respects your time. Do not ask who praises your character. Ask who recognizes your contribution. Do not ask who supports your ambition in words. Ask what structure exists when their comfort conflicts with your future. Build proof, hold standards, control access, create alternatives. Accept that some approval will disappear when self-respect appears. A man who needs approval can be controlled. A man with standards must be negotiated with. And a man with the capacity to enforce those standards no longer waits for permission to become who he was supposed to be.